Hi, Ericka. It's Laura Kraut, and sorry about the delay in getting to your videos. I was struggling to get them to open up, and then somehow I think when they were resent to me, I missed it. So anyways, apologizing for the delay, but really happy to get to watch them. Whoever picks out horses for you does an amazing job because your horses all really complement one another. I know they're a little bit different, one between the other and the other, but you suit both of them. Your two new ones, the size and everything seems to work great for you. So we started at Split Rock, and what I'm seeing with your first one here, I think this is Ultra Chic, is just, it's a little bit of a different horse in that she gets a little strong on you. And I think sometimes you land and you hold her, and then you think you can't get her to wait anymore. So then you just give in and kind of let her go to the jump. I notice it actually more in your round at Split Rock and less as you go on and show at Deer Ridge. I think that, as anything with a partnership takes time to develop. So I think that that's just something you'll have to work on and get to know the horse, and she'll have to get to know you. But I think that all in all, it looks really good. I'm on your jump off now at Split Rock, and fence 1 and 2 were excellent. And then, an aggressive ride to the next one, which I think you don't know her. But when you do ride aggressive, then she is going to land a bit in your hand. I thought you did a nice job back to the next jump, the vertical, and now you're going to the double again. Good jump in. I still see that you have to work on the outs of your combinations. I think when you ride into the combination, what you've got to really do is try to convey to them that they need to slow down and take their time jumping out. When the jumps are on the smaller side, again, you can get away with that. Your other horse that I watched the rounds on, I mean, she knows exactly what she's doing and she gets out of the way. But I think like with this one and the next one, I think that you've got to help them just a little bit more, just because they seem to be a little bit rangier and longer strided. We're now at Deer Ridge, and I can tell a big difference already. So I don't know what the time difference was between Split Rock and Deer Ridge, but already I feel like you're more in sync with this horse. You've jumped the first few jumps. You're going up to 5, A, B to 6. I think I walked this course, actually. I think I had a student in this class. But I think, just watching you ride, you do a great job. You have confidence. You just jumped. You're turning back to the yellow combination on the rail, which you gave her, Oxer on the rail. You gave a good, definite ride there on the inside turn and up the long gallop. And now you're coming home in the 5, I think it was. And then to the skinny, which what I'm really liking, what I'm seeing is that on this one, you're letting her take the time to jump. You're sitting quiet. Even I think your combinations look better here. I think you're letting her jump in and back. I'm saying it's a she. I think it's a she. Anyways, you're letting her take her time to jump, which I think is important. Your other mare is just so quick that I think that you probably, were used to a horse just going fast over the jumps. And not every horse is like that. So I think it looks like you've figured out how to let this one jump at her own pace. And then your rideability is so much better. I feel like you're not in a tug of war with her like you kind of were at Split Rock. You're coming down around. I'm just sort of going through the courses because basically you're riding very well. You just jumped a green combination, and I thought you were very good there. Like you didn't push her out. And then it was a steady line down to the North Star Oxer. And, you use the bend. You did a good job of getting her back so that the jump was good. You're coming to the blue and white combination. Again, you jumped in quietly. And then you did a good job at C, where I felt like on the other one, you kind of just let him run through it. You balanced her up, made her jump it. Now you're jumping a plank down on the outside line. Again, I really think this looks very good. Your position is good. You look strong. And what I really can tell now that I've watched you on 3 different horses, what I really appreciate is that I can see you're a thinking rider. I mean, you have your plan, you know what you're doing. You don't ever appear to really get caught off guard. There's a couple of times on the last one on Notorious where I think he gets away from you a little bit and you make a couple of decisions that maybe weren't what you wanted. But on the whole, you're super organized, which is really nice. And I think your horses trust in you because of it, because you're consistent with them. We're now starting with him. I think it's a boy. And he's a little spooky from the side of the ring. And what I see in him is he's got a really big stride. He's got a really big presence and way of going. And I feel like, again, he's maybe just strong at times. And instead of figuring out how to sort of collect him with your leg and your seat and your hand, you end up just kind of grabbing a hold of him. You went along the rail on the outside nicely, and then he spooks on the end of the ring, and you just grab a hold of the outside rein. I think that's where you've got to do some flat work. You've got to get him to where when you land from the line on the outside, you get back in your saddle, you sit down, you ask him to bend the correct way, and you use your inside leg to push him to the rail rather than your outside rein to just hang him to the rail. And these are things that are really important, particularly as you start to jump bigger jumps, is that flat work in between the jumps on a horse like this is really important, because if you don't have him listening and paying attention and collected in some way, he is going to get away from you. And, when you're jumping 120 or 125, you can get away with some things. But if you decide you want to jump 130, 135, 140, then you're going to need him to respond a little bit quicker than he does, rather than just him running through the bridle and you kind of hanging on the outside rein. You're doing a little bit the same thing going around the far end. You jumped a red and white oxer. And now you're coming to a red, white, and blue combination, and then the blue and white jump. And again, he starts to cross canter. He throws his shoulder into the left as you finish. That's a place where maybe what you should have done is kept cantering, really make a point of pushing him over and getting him to bend. I think, you are not a super tall person, so I think what you've got to work on is using as much leg as you have. And I think that if you can get this horse to bend, I think you can use your leg and your hand a little bit more efficiently. When he's stiff through his neck, or even with his nose turned to the outside, you have no chance of outpulling him. I mean, there's no way. You're a little tiny girl and he's stronger than you are. So that's where you come into a little bit of a trouble, even here in the jump off. You jump 1, you jump 2, going down the line. He's kind of on the go. I mean, you don't have a lot to say about it. You were good that you held him, but he's sort of doing his own plan. And what I'm seeing is you're kind of having to hang out rather than turn, because you don't have the control to get it done. Now, this was probably when you first got him. So I would say that probably by now you've gotten a lot of this figured out. Here we're watching it. I think it's the same. I've never been to Split Rock, but anyways, it looks beautiful. So you just started over the horse flight jump, and really nice ride to the second jump. Very good adjustment to the third jump. I mean, I'm already liking better. You can see even going to fence 4, if you could just get a little bit of a bend in his neck so that he's looking where he's going instead of hanging his nose to the outside, you're going to find that you have a lot more control, even from fence 4 to 5. That's the perfect example of him just falling in, and instead of using your leg to push him out, you're just hanging on the outside. Really good to the double. Again, I'm going to go back to you have really beautiful body control in the air of the jumps. I think that's one of the things that's really helpful for riding all the horses is that you do keep control. But again, you're rolling back on a green jump, and the control is probably at 60% instead of at 80 or 90. Now we're at WEF, And you're jumping up the first line, which he jumped really nicely. Again, he lands a bit strong. So he pulls you a bit under the third jump, and then, he spooks away, it looks like. But again, I think horses that are spooky like this appreciate when you get a hold of them and control them a little bit more. Good ride to the double. He looks strong. You're having to kind of go to the seesaw rein, which is good. I love this about you, is that you're scrappy. You do what you need to do to get the job done. But I do think that you could ride with a little bit more sophistication, particularly with this horse. I think he's just a big strided horse, and he is hard for you to manage when you let him get going. You're coming back on the John Deere. It's getting sort of faster and wider. Rather than turning short, it's just getting wider. And then back to the 12AB, you have not a lot of control. And even to 13, that was a little bit of a Hail Mary. This is all work that can be done at home with poles on the ground and cavalettis, and just really working on the details of doing serpentines. Serpentines would be a great exercise for you, even with poles on the ground or even with no poles. Just really making him, change his bend, canter with some shape through the turn. I think anything like that would be very helpful. Again, I've also talked about counter-cantering to work on getting them balanced and you getting your leg working. You're in a jump off here right now, which is going well. And I feel like you have more control in this round. You just jumped a purple jump. Now you're turning. You're going back by the gate. Again, a bit rough in the turn, but you made it work. And good ride down the line, 5 to the 1. Very good across there. And definitely this round for me is your most controlled one. But then again, you come around to fence 12, a little bit like the last round. He's going, you think you see one, and then you don't. Then he has to fit one in. But I think it all goes back to just, you're going to want to do your flat work. Now I don't know what show this is, but anyways, you've jumped down the first 3 jumps. And then he's a little strong on the end. Right there, bend him, left, bend him. Push your left leg on him. Because then he drags you into the double. And then you ride nicely. But I just feel like everything is always, you're sort of hanging on till the last minute to make it work. Rather than it being, you having it all organized and set up. I feel like everything's sort of a fight right till the takeoff. You just jump down the middle line to sailboats. Now you're coming around to a black plank, which is good. Actually, that was good. And then you've taken hold of him nicely here. That was a related distance, which was helpful. And the combination, which was helpful. So that backed him up a little bit. Good ride to the oxer, and he jumped it great, the last jump. But, you had some good control of him. Now we're in this jump off. Not a bad turn, but you can see where he wants to fall in. Mainly on your left turns, he really wants to duck his shoulder in, so just something to think about. Good turn back to the right. And got the 6 done nicely. And that's a good turn there. And see, by making these tight turns, it actually puts him on his hind end, which then helps you, because when he's on his hind end and not pulling you, then you can actually ease off on the reins and let him jump. So your second to last and last jump are great, because basically that course set him up by making him have to make some pretty sharp turns. I really enjoyed watching them, and thank you so much for sending them. And I wish you a lot of luck. I think you've got a great string of horses, and hopefully we'll be back showing sooner rather than later. Take care. Bye.